You are standing in front of a mirror. The room is quiet. You adjust your collar. You turn slightly to the left. You suck in your stomach just a fraction of an inch. You check the fit of the fabric against your shoulder. While you do this, your brain is running a high-speed simulation. It is populating the room with people who aren't there. It is calculating how they will look at you, what they will think, how much respect this specific combination of fabric and color will extract from them. You don't notice you're doing it. It feels like you're just getting dressed. But in that moment, your brain isn't looking at the mirror. It is looking at an invisible audience. And you have been performing for this audience since the moment you became conscious. You spend money on them. You sacrifice comfort for them. You trade hours of your life working to impress them. But here is the uncomfortable truth that your brain is trying to hide from you. The audience isn't watching. The theater is empty. And you're paying a fortune for a ticket to a show that nobody else is attending. Why do we do this? Why do we spend the majority of our discretionary income on signaling things to people who are mostly indifferent to our existence? It's not because we are vain, and it's not because we are stupid. It's because of a biological glitch that confuses being seen with survival. And the cost of this glitch is the single biggest drain on your life's resources. Let's look at the pattern. It usually starts with a purchase that feels essential. A car, a specific brand of phone, a dinner at a restaurant where the lighting is dim and the menu has no prices. When you make the transaction, it feels personal. You tell yourself, I appreciate quality, or I've earned this, or I just like the way it looks. And these things might be true, but if you strip away the narrative and look at the behavior through a microscope, something else is happening. Imagine you were the last person on Earth, literally the only human alive. Would you still drive that car? Would you still buy that watch? Would you still wear those uncomfortable shoes? Would you still upgrade your phone every September? Probably not, because without the audience, the object loses its secondary function. Its primary function is utility, getting from A to B, telling time, protecting your feet. But its secondary function is communication. It is a signal. And in the modern world, we pay significantly more for the signal than we do for the utility. A $20 watch tells time just as accurately as a $2,000 watch, sometimes more accurately. The extra $1,980 isn't for the time, it's for the invisible audience. But here is where it gets interesting. You aren't just buying a signal, you are buying a relief from a very specific, ancient anxiety. This pattern has a name. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the cognitive bias where we tend to overestimate how much other people notice about us. We walk through life feeling like we are the protagonist in a movie. The camera is always on us. The lighting is focused on us. We assume that everyone else is the audience, closely tracking our continuity errors, our costume changes, and our character arc. If you wear a shirt with a stain on it, you feel a burning sensation of shame. You're convinced everyone sees it. You assume 50% of the people you pass notice the stain. In reality, studies show the number is closer to 10% or less, and of those who noticed, most forgot about it within seconds. But your brain doesn't believe the studies. Your brain believes the spotlight. Why? Because for 99.9% of human history, the spotlight was real, and it was dangerous. If you lived in a tribe of 50 people on the savannah, you were being watched, constantly. Your status within that group determined your survival. If you were seen as competent, strong, and resourceful, you got a better share of the meat. You got a mate. You got protection. If you were seen as weak, incompetent, or strange, you might be ostracized. And in the Paleolithic era, exile meant death. So your brain evolved a highly sensitive, paranoid radar system. It is designed to constantly ask, how am I being perceived right now? It simulates the gaze of others to keep you safe. But here is the problem. We don't live in a tribe of 50 people anymore. We live in a world of billions. We walk past strangers in a single day than our ancestors met in a lifetime. But the hardware hasn't changed. Your brain is still running the tribe of 50 software in a city of 5 million. It treats the stranger on the subway, the barista, and the random follower on Instagram as if they are tribal elders who hold the keys to your survival. It compels you to spend resources signaling to people who, biologically speaking, do not matter. This brings us to the invisible mechanism of spending. Most people think they spend money to acquire things. But if you look closely at your bank account, you'll see a different story. You are often spending money to control a narrative. You buy the round of drinks not because you are thirsty, but to signal generosity.
You buy the organic, grass-fed, locally sourced produce, not just for nutrition, but to signal moral virtue, even if the only person seeing it is the cashier. You buy the tech gadget on launch day to signal relevance. This isn't malicious, it's adaptive. But the modern environment has weaponized this adaptation. The entire economy is built on selling props for your performance. Think about the concept of branding. A plain white t-shirt costs $10. Put a small logo on the chest, a check mark, a horse, a geometric shape, and it costs $50. The cotton is the same, the stitching is the same. The extra $40 is the fee you pay to the prop master. It's the cost of the signal. You are paying for the right to say to the invisible audience, I am a member of this specific tribe. I can afford this specific tier of status. But here is what you didn't notice, and this is the part that makes this behavior so expensive. The audience you are performing for is narcissistic. While you are worrying about what they think of your shoes, they are not looking at your shoes. They are worrying about what you think of their shoes. It's a room full of actors, all performing a monologue at the same time, with nobody in the audience. Everyone is broadcasting, nobody is receiving. There is a fascinating paradox here. Let's call it the paradox of the observer. When you see someone driving a Ferrari, you don't think, wow, that guy is cool. You think, wow, I would look cool in that car. You don't admire the person, you admire the object, and you immediately insert yourself into the scene. The driver of the Ferrari is invisible to you. They are just a mannequin displaying the status symbol you want. And yet, when you buy the status symbol, you assume people will admire you. They won't. They will just use you as a mirror for their own desires. You're spending money to be a background character in someone else's daydream. Let's escalate this, because it's not just about luxury cars. This behavior bleeds into the invisible corners of your finances. Think about the guest room. In millions of homes, there is a room that sits empty for 350 days a year. It has a bed, it has nice sheets, it is heated and cooled. You pay a mortgage on that square footage. You pay property taxes on it. You pay to clean it. Why? For the hypothetical scenario that a member of the audience comes to stay. You are paying thousands of dollars a year for the potential of being perceived as a good host. The cost of the invisible audience isn't just on your credit card statement, it's in the architecture of your life. Or think about decision debt. How many subscriptions do you keep not because you use them, but because canceling them would be an admission of failure? The language learning app, the highbrow magazine, the gym membership. Keeping them active is a signal to yourself and the invisible audience. I am the kind of person who speaks French, reads intellectual essays, and works out. Canceling them means admitting, I am not that person. So you pay. You pay a monthly tax to maintain a character that doesn't exist. Now let's zoom out. Imagine you could see the aggregate cost of this performance over a lifetime. If you took every dollar spent primarily for the signal, not the utility, but the signal, what would that number be? The difference between the car you need and the car you bought. The clothes that cover you and the clothes that define you. The weddings that are designed for the guests, not the couple. The renovations done for resale value rather than living comfort. For the average person, this status tax can amount to 30 to 40% of their lifetime earnings. Years of labor, years of sitting in meetings, dealing with stress, missing mornings with your family, traded away. For what? To impress a ghost jury that is currently looking at their own reflection in a store window. But it goes deeper. There is a psychological cost that is heavier than the financial one. When you spend for the invisible audience, you hand over your agency. You are no longer the author of your own life. You are the editor, cutting and splicing your reality to fit a genre you didn't choose. You see this most clearly on social media. This is the systemic design at work. Social media is a machine built to monetize the spotlight effect. It quantifies the audience. It gives you a number, likes, views, shares. It turns the vague feeling of being watched into a metric. And because our brains are wired to crave tribal approval, we will pay anything to make that number go up. We pay with our money to buy Instagrammable experiences. We go to the restaurant not for the food, but for the photo. If you go to a beautiful place and don't post a picture, did you really go? Your brain asks this question seriously, because if the tribe didn't see it, it didn't register as a status point. So we spend money to manufacture moments that look expensive, rather than experiencing moments that feel rich. We buy the $18 cocktail because it looks like a jewel, even if it tastes like sugar water.
We travel to the destination that is trending, standing in line for an hour to take the same photo as the 40 million people before us. We are spending real money to curate a digital avatar, and the tragic irony? The avatar is having a great life, but the human behind it is broke, anxious, and tired. Here is the contrarian truth that changes everything. Most people think that if they stop performing, they will be rejected. They fear that if they step out of the spotlight, they will disappear. But the opposite is true. The moment you stop performing is the moment you become real. And here is the most important part, the part that most people miss because it feels too simple. Nobody cares. This sounds harsh, it sounds lonely, but it is actually the most liberating sentence in the English language. Nobody cares if your car is 3 years old. Nobody cares if you wear the same outfit twice in 1 week. Nobody cares if your phone has a home button. They are too busy worrying about their own script. Once you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but emotionally, the world changes. The invisible audience vanishes, and suddenly you are alone in the theater. At first, the silence is terrifying. You look around for the applause. You wait for the validation, but it doesn't come. And then a new feeling settles in: relief. If nobody is watching, you don't have to act. If the theater is empty, you can stop projecting to the back row. You can speak in your normal voice. And financially, the implications are massive. When you stop paying the status tax, your expenses drop overnight, not because you are depriving yourself, but because you are no longer buying props. You start buying things because you like them, because they feel good, because they work, because they add value to your actual lived experience, not your perceived value. You might still buy the expensive watch, but you buy it because you love the engineering, not because you hope someone asks you about it. The action looks the same from the outside, but the internal mechanism is completely different. One is a tax, the other is a joy. So let's go back to that moment in front of the mirror. You are standing there, adjusting the collar, checking the angle. You catch your own eye in the glass. In that split second, you have a choice. You can continue the simulation. You can walk out the door carrying the weight of 1,000 imaginary judges, spending your energy and your money to appease them. Or you can ask yourself one question: if I were invisible to everyone else today, would I still choose this? If the answer is no, you have found a leak. You have found a place where your resources are flowing to a ghost. You don't need to fix it all today. You don't need to sell everything and live in a cave. You just need to notice the audience. See them sitting there in the dark corners of your mind and realize that they are just figments of an ancient, anxious imagination. They aren't watching. They never were. The show is yours. You can save the money on the ticket.